Someone's going to go for two and get it at some point.
It's 1:42 in the morning.
Yeah, that's all right. Number one. Shocker. Iron.
Man, give me the Trojans.
There we go. For time, presented by Perfection One. My name is John Bruce, along with Shayne Combs. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. This will be coming to you on Monday, Tuesday, whenever you decide that you're going to watch it. But we are filming on a Sunday afternoon.
I'd say everyone's just lined up, just waiting for it to be released.
Exactly. Hey, last week our boys basketball preview was like our third biggest that we've ever done, and I think the previous biggest was like maybe right around the district finals from a couple of seasons ago when we were at Studio 33 down off of Route 23, which whatever on the studio name, it is what it is. But now we are in our studio here at the SOSA downtown office, and this should be a fun week.
No question. I mean, basketball season pretty much all the way in high gear now. Some teams late to start, some teams scheduling a bunch up front, some teams holding off. Now, just about every conference, if not already open, going to open this week, and we should start to get a little bit of a clear picture on who's going to be able to do what here as the calendar turns to 2026.
Yeah. So on this episode, we'll talk a little bit about Wheelersburg football. We'll put a wrap on that, but we'll talk boys basketball. We'll preview the week ahead, and then we'll talk girls basketball as well. We're trying to even it out a little bit after the last 2 weeks have been really one way or the other.
Yeah.
So if you are interested in one specific thing, check out the timestamps below. Find those timestamps for whatever you want. If you're a Meigs Marauders fan and you want to hear our rundown of the Meigs and Westfall game, you're going to see it in the timestamps.
Yeah.
If you are if you're a fan of Addison Edgington from Circleville, you're going to want to go to that timestamp to find out when we talk about her big game for this past week as well. So whatever you want to hear, as long as we talked about it, is going to be in the timestamps below.
Yeah. Now, that's the nice thing about that too is we want to put a lot of time into it to make sure we cover as many people, as many programs as possible. We understand the busyness of the viewers, the listeners. That I think that's a real nice thing you do there in terms of organization.
Yeah, it's definitely takes a little bit of time, but ends up I think does make a big difference. That was a Dewey idea to start with, so shout out to Dewey Daly. Bear down for him. I don't know if that's their thing or not, but probably won't be seeing much of him around here. But that's a good thing because that means his overall career is started, which we appreciate everything he's done to help us with the building of our YouTube channel, which has been pretty successful overall. So we did 4 games this week, and before we even get into the Wheelersburg thing, I want to, and we didn't even put like a discussion piece on this week, but I think you will agree with me on this. Just how nice is it whenever athletic directors, I'm actually not being sarcastic this time. I think you were waiting for me to say something sarcastic there, but whenever athletic directors understand what we're there to do, understand the media, and they really go out of their way to make everything easier for us. We had that all week this week. We streamed at 3 different locations. On Monday, Logan was great. Tuesday, we had to pivot to Adena at Huntington. Huntington was great. And then Westfall was fantastic on Saturday. So, I mean, we got to go to 3 different schools. We got treated like we were more important than we are, which is always nice when you get treated like you're more important than you actually are, because obviously it's all everything that's out on the court. But it's just it's wonderful when they understand, we're there to help and not hinder anything.
There's no question about it. I mean, all the years I've coached, I look at it as, you're in this for the kids. And, what we do is we try to promote the kids. We try to promote the programs. And a lot of times I know I'll get a lot of feedback of, hey, why don't you guys go to this school a little bit more, this school? And you don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but there's certain places that have better technology. They have better setup. They have better, some have some different deals within their school where, we can't really get in there and do what we do, which that's fine too. But you're right. I mean, look, we have a great passion for what we do, and we want to go out and be real fair to the kids. At the height, we understand we're not calling games of college and professional athletes
Mhm.
making millions of dollars. So we want to give a fair call, but at the same time, we want to protect the integrity of high school sports. And you're right. I mean, when you get the opportunity to have the schools see you as a partner and the whole
Mhm.
process, that does mean a lot.
Yeah, it definitely makes things a little bit easier for us and, makes you feel welcome as well, and that makes it to where it's like, "Hey, put that on the list of schools we can go to." So,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we knew of 2 of those, and now we're able to add one of those as well. We won't say which one, 'cause we had a good idea, but we hadn't been
Mhm.
there for a while, so, we appreciate all of that as
Yeah.
well. So, any feedback anybody wants to give? I know we got a little bit of feedback last week on some of the boys preview, and also talking about culture building as well as our Kenneth Hay, actually, who we deeply appreciate as well because
Yeah.
we couldn't do any of our streaming without Kenneth.
Mhm.
Um, he mentioned something we talked about culture last week, and in the building culture, how you know his brother plays at a small school, and he went and watched them on Friday when we were off, and he saw, it was a JV game, and the varsity kids showed up when they didn't have a game. So,
Yeah.
like, stuff like that, it is a culture building thing, and I think, that's one of those things you'd love to hear back about the importance of culture.
I've been fascinated by it. I've loved probably that topic has probably been about as much of the feedback as we've had over the several weeks
Mhm.
we've been doing this. I had a chance to talk to a legendary coach yesterday.
Mhm.
I'll kind of keep the basis of the conversation private, but the gist of it was he was kind of admitting that, like, I don't know if I could start over
Mhm.
today. Like he has incredible culture in his program because he's done it for a long time. And
Mhm.
it's not like he wouldn't dare ever mistreat a kid or whatever, but
Right.
he's old school, he's strict, he has some different
Mhm.
things. But but the beauty of that was he recognized that for young coaches, it is hard. I
Mhm.
mean, you can say, I'll do this, and that. Well, you do that in year one at certain places, you might get fired.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like so I think it's one of those where we can sit here and say, I think a coach should do this, and I think a coach should do. If you have lived it as a coach, you understand that there's a lot of different personalities. There's a lot of different parents out there. There's a lot of different administrations out there, and they have different philosophies on different things. So you have to be able to come in and kind of sell your product, but do so within the scope of what that particular school district's looking for.
So when you say that though, like let's say a if that coach goes to a different school, even with the hundreds of wins that they have, and the other school, some schools, like if you go in kind of grumpy and you're trying to do it,
Yeah.
do you think that makes a difference? If you go in like, hey, this is what we've always done, let's, and do it like kind of like, Dabu can be, kind of overwhelming, but he's gonna, we're gonna do things
Right.
with great passion and energy. If you go in with that instead of you're doing it this way, do you think that makes a difference?
I do, and I think sometimes coaches are not giving themselves enough credit. If you've ended up coaching 15, 20, 25, 30 years, some cases 35, 40 years,
Yeah.
you've obviously have adapted.
Yeah.
Yes, you have some of your core values, but you've adapted over time and you've adjusted more than you think. Um, but you're right. Sometimes it's your delivery, how you come in and wanting to be a part of something bigger than yourself, not coming in just saying, "Hey, here's my resume. Here's how I'm going to do it, like it or not."
Mhm.
That doesn't fly
Right.
today. So I agree. I think a lot of I've always said it's people, not programs.
Mhm.
Yeah. So when you come in, your ability to communicate with people, that's obviously leadership 101.
Well, and then kind of talking about that, we'll go back to college football a little bit. Kurt Cincinnati,
Mhm.
he's like, when he first came in, he's like, I win, Google me. And I think people didn't take that the right way or
Mhm.
take that as he wanted it to be known. But you can tell, obviously, he's done something that
Sure.
really works out well. And I want to say it's because he probably has that public image of that. And then behind the scenes, he's probably making himself to where, hey, these kids are seeing why they need to buy in and not being told they need to buy in.
Well, and what's interesting about that you bring up that point, and again, I would be careful how I link this to high school, but I think the
Right.
point
Right.
applies. Is sometimes when you go in, if a place hasn't been on the map or if a place doesn't care about a particular thing, sometimes in your approach, you almost have to purposely walk a fine line. You got to come right up to the edge without, going
Mhm.
just to see if you can't stir some interest, stir some attention, stir some different things. So obviously in the college landscape, the number one thing that's changed is the ability to do it overnight because, you're not sitting out when you transfer. You're not doing this.
Yeah.
Come on over here. We have some money. We have this, we have that. So at the high school level, I think that does apply sometimes. Sometimes you go into a certain place and maybe that community hasn't really ever
Mhm.
given a particular thing a chance, and sometimes been able to bring a little bit of a dynamic leadership to it. You may stir some things up in a negative way every now and then, but for the most part, I think, like you said, if you come in with the right type of mindset, it can happen.
Yeah, and I think mindset and how you treat people
Mhm.
has a major impact because, you know, when you mention old school coaches, sometimes people think of like the Bobby Knight where,
Yeah.
he was a little too much hands on, obviously. But you could be old school without, you know, doing anything like that, anything
Mhm.
extra. So it's just you can be old school in your morals, expectations, and like, you're doing this, you're dressing this way, we're wearing the team shoes, our
Right.
uniforms are gonna be the same. You can do all of that stuff while also giving everyone their chance to, kinda stand out in their own way, which is kind of the way we our world right now is "Hey, I wanna stand out in some way."
That's
Yeah.
that's a really great point with the shoes because that's one of the things I'm talking about. If a
Mm,
certain veteran coach comes in, he or she says, "We're having team shoes.
mm,
Here's how you need to get them."
yeah,
People may not like it. They'll be like, "Okay, let's get team shoes," or some people be like, "That's right. I told you they'd come right in here and clean."
yeah,
The first year coach comes in here, see, but team shoes too expensive. Always wanting something. I mean, it's just
yeah.
there's a perception on how people view different coaches. So, like when you talk about resume, that
Mhm.
matters more than you think it does.
Oh, it definitely does. So it's something that, we'll keep an eye on throughout the season is the different things with the culture,
Mhm.
across the landscape. I really like talking about it last week
Really
and
enjoyed the
yeah.
feedback too. I appreciate that from everybody.
Yeah, and then, we're gonna put a capper now on the football season. So
Mhm.
Wheelersburg goes up to Tom Benson Stadium on Saturday night, ends up losing pretty sizably in the state championship game. A Cooper Heimbach 45-yard field goal, and I believe it was 28 degrees, and he absolutely drilled it. Was all the scoring that Wheelersburg was able to do, but it's not about that. It's more about the journey for that than maybe the destination was. An outstanding season, 14-1. They get back to the state championship game. Just, what can you add to talk about for this Witnessburg?
You're exactly right. A huge step forward, building off of Ironton in the past, the Wheelersburg run. Um, on the state level, as we
Mhm,
talked about. The first half field goal, I had a chance to see a little bit of that second half when we were finished with our
mhm,
stream. Um, had a chance maybe early second half. I thought maybe they were on the wrong side of a missed pass interference
mm,
call. Maybe that could have jump started a drive. Nonetheless, continued to play hard all the way to the end. They just had trouble moving the football against a really good defense in the trenches. But man, what can you say? Just you want to talk about culture? It's just
mhm,
they just the ability to roll it over and continue. And as well as I do how this works, there's a lot of freshmen, sophomores there on the sidelines watching that. There's a lot of middle school kids in the stands. There's a lot of elementary kids making the trip with their
mhm.
families, and those are going to be the next line of Wheelersburg just to keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. So, um, absolutely love what they did. The only thing I would add there is I touched on this in past weeks. Now you watch a lot of these kids move into basketball. I really, really would like to see the OHSA take a look at our calendar
Mhm.
and see if we can't just tweak. You're only talking tweaking things about 14 days, and you would really, really protect uh, kids in terms of remaining a 2, 3 sport athlete, which I really believe in.
Well, because a lot of that Wheelersburg group is going to be starting football or starting basketball probably on Monday
Right,
because they play on Sunday. Their
right.
first game is on Sunday. So, I mean, they get at most 5 practices in, and that's if they're healthy, if they're fully ready to go on Sunday, and, but that's you're playing in a showcase event, so it's kinda hard to drop out of that, but, I mean, they pushed other stuff back, but if you move the season forward, like you talked about last week and you talked about, just a minute ago, then you still have a couple weeks. You have a week where
Mhm.
you can hang around and kind of just go sit at practice. Because I know we always had that at the end of the fall season. You could go right into basketball, or you'd have a few days where, you go and, it's still conditioning open gym. So you go hang out. And then after a couple days, you're like, okay, I'm feeling good enough. I can go jump in there. But now for a team like Wheelersburg this year, Ironton last year, you just don't have those dates to be able to let your body recuperate because I mean
Yeah.
that's 15 weeks of football. I know they had a week off in there,
Yeah.
but
And
50.
in the last month, high level
Yeah,
football.
so there's some big time hitting and it's very physical, very competitive. You're going to be pretty beat up.
But the
So,
problem
yeah.
too, John, is like by the time you said Sunday, okay,
Yeah.
so by the time we finish next Saturday night, there's going to be some boys basketball teams that are 4, 5, 6, 7 games into their
Mhm.
season. Even some of the teams that because they made the playoffs were able to finagle a week or
Mhm.
two, even they're going to be at 3 or 4.
Mhm.
So like there's only so much more time you can move it back.
Mhm.
So in Wheelersburg's athletic department defense, you're still trying to give those kids their 22-game schedule. There's
Mhm.
only so much time
Right.
to put it into. So again, it'd be like I've really looked at this on paper. It would be amazing what would happen if you just bumped everything 14 days, and we have the room to do it at the very beginning of the school year. Would be my
Mm.
argument to that.
Yeah, I do completely agree with that. But Wheelersburg, outstanding season,
Yeah,
state runner up.
didn't mean to
Yeah,
bury the
no.
lead. The lead obviously is congratulations to Wheelersburg. I was just making that point because I know how special those athletes are going to be in the winter as well.
Yeah, so they should have an outstanding winter season, and we'll be there for at least a couple of games. I know they have the Wheelersburg Sports Network that does a great job of covering their home games, so look forward to seeing them down the road. But congratulations to Coach Woodard, his staff. Like a Braylon Rucker who was outstanding for them, longtime starting quarterback for them, is going to move over to be a really good starting point guard for them as
Mhm.
well. Then Cooper Heimbach, as we've mentioned, going to OU. You had Ryan Meeker, Ison Emnet as district players of the year, and then like Kenyon Evans had the most dynamic play on the football field that we had on streaming all
Yeah.
season. Um, and then that defense was outstanding throughout the year, and it's just they had so many pieces that helped push that forward, and you know was it 14 teams get to play in the state championship across
Yeah.
all divisions, and they were one of them, and
Mhm.
they went and competed hard and just came up short.
No question. It was neat to turn the TV on the other night when we got in from the stream and just see one of like our area right there
Yes,
representing us and doing a great job doing so.
yeah. So congratulations once again to the Pirates. So now we're going to jump over to boys basketball. So last week was our boys basketball preview. So if you watched, and by all accounts you probably did, if you are watching this one, we appreciate you watching. I think we talked about it was over 50 teams individually. We talked about in some way
Mm.
out of the 70 that we cover. And it was really nice to get some feedback on that. And if we missed if we missed a team, hopefully we can get out and watch them in person or on streaming sometime this year as well. So Tuesday, we were supposed to be at Westfall at St. Trace, and weather happens. I mean, it's almost winter, so that's what happens in the winter. So weather happens. I have a feeling this winter is going to have a lot of that. So because we've been pretty lucky the last few years.
Mm.
So uh, yeah. So thankfully, we were able to pivot to Adena at Huntington, and really, we weren't sure what to expect because we saw both. They played back to back over at the St. Trace Tip Off Classic the week before. We didn't stream the Adena game; we streamed the Huntington game. We kind of knew what to expect there. Weren't sure on the quality of their opponents in the first game, but they both had sizable wins. But man, Joey Francis for Adena just came out early and super hot from the field, had an outstanding game, 22 points. Gavin Harold had 16 for Adena in the game. And maybe the biggest factor was what Luke Preston was able to do defensively for them as they held Huntington to only 46 points on the night. I believe it's
Yeah.
55-46.
Yes.
Yeah. only 46 points on the night, and they slowed, Frankie Hirsch to only 9 points on the night, and he is one of the most dynamic players in the Cider Valley Conference, and they did an outstanding job on him throughout the game, and just overall, just a really good win for Adena.
Yeah, the Huntington Adena matchup is intriguing because now that I've had a chance to see both teams play against a variety of opponents, it they're both basketball teams that I really like the direction they're going. But but you might argue that they're a little bit different phases depending on how
Mhm,
you want to look at it. With Adena, all of a sudden now you look out there on the court, that's a little bit more of an experienced basketball team than we
mhm,
realized going into the season. There's a lot of guys that have kind of been able to get the feet wet at the varsity level. They've been able to move forward, um, and they've been able to go through some different types of experiences, some different types of
mhm,
atmospheres, and have really handled themselves pretty well. On the Huntington side, not as deep as maybe we
mhm,
thought they were going to be. I think right now they're still trying to figure out where can we spot a seventh and eighth.
mhm.
If we can, maybe that would allow us to maybe pick the tempo up in spots and matchups that we want to. Nonetheless, over the weekend there they scored what 70
Yeah,
plus
71 at
71 at Alexander. So again you see the ability to score it a little bit. Um, that top six, they have what, a freshman and two sophomores,
Mhm,
and two of those guys are playing varsity for the very first time. So there's a pump the brakes. Sometimes what happens is we accelerate the expectation for what we think over 22 games. Well,
mhm.
then if we don't see it in game 3, 4, or 5, we're like, well, we were wrong.
Right.
Well, let's slow down a little bit. As I've said, that's a Huntington team that could be really, really scary about 11, 12 games in when some of these kids start to figure out their role and what Coach Urick's wanting from them at the varsity level and so forth. Because I think that's a little bit of what you're seeing here with Adena as well. Even with Coach Day coming over to the boys' side, those kids are kids that he's obviously
Mhm,
known for a long time, and he understands who can do what, and they've been able to hit the ground running a little bit, and I think have started to play over top some people's expectations. Now, what happens is you get off to one of those starts, people's expectations
uh-huh,
change, and all of a sudden you go into a bigger game. Well, all of a sudden it's a bigger game than maybe it was going to
mhm.
be when we first looked at the
Right.
schedule. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're dealing with those levels of emotions and expectations throughout a year, and it's going to change.
Yeah, and I think they've done a really good job of putting that staff together too, because Coach Bradley has always been a really good X's and O's guy, and he comes in as an assistant for the first time in quite some time. And then Coach Day, he's the sixth winningest coach ever on the SVC girls
Sure.
basketball side, which says a lot because SVC girls basketball is outstanding.
Mhm.
So you have a nice staff, and then you got some really good athletes as well. Joey Francis is one of the best athletes, if not the best athlete in the Saddle Valley Conference, and he's shown it off so far in those 3 games. He had 24 in their opener, 22 against Huntington, and he had a really good game on Friday night against Uniota as well.
Yeah, I think he's been terrific. He's a
Mm.
dynamic athlete. He can really score it, and then the versatility of Garrison and Harold
Yes.
have really helped a little bit. Last year there's times where Metzger just got kind of thrown to the wolves with
Mm,
the pressure. This year the versatility of some of those other guys that have allowed them
mm,
to mix and match and do some things. They're getting some really good minutes off the bench. I thought that Huntington game in the second quarter.
it's ours. Yep.
Sowers had come in and given him nice size. When Huntington went to the zone, he just
Mm,
punished him on the
yep.
offensive glass, giving him some really good minutes there. Now you go over to the Huntington side to put some names with the point that I made
Right.
before. Give it 11 or 12 games and watch where watch where the younger Hirsch is.
Yeah.
Just pump the brakes, calm down, let young kids develop,
Hmm.
and they're going to be those are going to be two basketball teams that I think are really uh, going to be tough outs by the time we get to tournament
Yeah,
play.
I think that second matchup, the one that's going to be in Frankfurt, should be really fun to
Sure.
watch as well because I do think they're going to continue to grow each team. Now, neither has a ton of depth. Adena goes 7 deep, while Huntington goes 6 deep. They went to a seventh in that one, but very short term on that. So,
But
uh,
again, young.
yeah,
Just give it
very
time.
young.
You may find that a seventh, eighth guy like Kinzer,
Yeah.
you may find that let someone develop a little bit more, and you might find that the role you're asking them to play will
Hmm.
work just fine later in the year.
Yeah, I agree completely. So, Looking forward to catching those teams again down the road. So Adena now 2-1. Huntington, I believe, is 3-1 on the season. So still nice starts for both teams, and we will see them throughout the year as they actually Huntington's 4-1 now in the year because they got the win over Amanda, Ripley, and then Southeastern on
And
Alexander.
Alexander.
So
Yep.
yeah, so a nice start for Huntington outside of that game that we streamed. So speaking of games that we streamed, we were able to get the Meigs Marauders over in Williamsport at the Dome. A 49-40 win for Meigs in the game. It was a game where Carson Davis didn't shoot the ball particularly well, but I thought he did a really good job of incorporating his entire team, and it made me a little bit more of a believer in how high Meg's ceiling can be.
I like the way you said that. Listen, first thing you see with Davis is you see 6'8", you see a kid knocking on the door of 1,000 just 3, 4 games into his senior year, and he can really score. He can
Mm,
really play on the offensive end, no doubt. I mean, there's no doubt. I'll tell you what jumped out at me was the intangibles that he brings to the court. That's why I like how you threw it back to the team thing. He can really, really make life easier on those around him. He draws all kinds of eyeballs, all kinds of extra double, triple teams. He's a great passing. He's a willing passer. And
mhm.
then I'll tell you where he really, really caught my eye was defensively.
Yes.
His IQ on the defensive end, just him understanding where to kind of move to, where to help, where am I needed, how can I recover, and then on a team that's not real tall, he also cleaned the defensive
Fif
glass all day.
15 boards.
Yeah, and I mean, and it was an easy 15
Yeah.
boards, right? Just good position, just
Mhm.
go up and snatch it. I mean, so you might say, well, he's 6'8", he should get 50. Well, not all 6'8" guys do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he does. So he's going to score a ton of points. But watch throughout the year, and you'll appreciate the way he plays the game in terms of how he's a willing passer and then how he really defends and rebounds.
Yeah, and I really liked, the way you said it about the defensive side. He had 12 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists
Yeah.
on the game, and probably 3 or 4 blocks, but a lot of altered shots. And there's a lot of times where Westfall was getting into the paint and they just weren't shooting.
Well, Westfall's relentless to the rim,
Yeah.
which I thought Ray and Craig lived down in the middle of the
Yeah.
paint. But again, his presence, they just kind of understood that he was there, and,
Mhm.
and that was a big factor.
Yeah, I like the fact that they were incorporating a couple, the kids that were there just for defense. They were incorporating them in the offense a little bit late, trying to, I think, make it known, hey, we're not just a three-person team, but that three-headed monster is pretty good because Colton Buechler had 20 on the night. He hit four, I believe, it was 6 from three. I think he was 4 or 6. And then Owen Tracy, who runs a point for them, is outstanding as well. He had 13 points and did a lot of stuff defensively, especially off the ball.
Yeah, they did, and they just have such a good feel for one another. They run a lot of action, and they understand option one, option two, option three, and they just make the right read. They make
Mhm.
the right basketball play, and as a result, after somewhat of a slow start there in the first quarter, I thought they really found some offensive rhythm in the second and third quarter and started to space out. Now, I'll let you kind of go where you want to. I was also real impressed with Westfall. They had
Mhm.
played Friday night. Paint Valley really pushed them through the first three
Mhm.
quarters before they pulled away. So they were in a dogfight in the SVC game. They come back, get down what 20.
Mhm.
They could have easily just kind of went away, and they did. So
Yeah.
I was real impressed with that.
Yeah, it's 37-17. Coach Joseph gets a timeout, and then the lead gets down to 6 at one point,
Yeah.
and Westfall had the ball, but they weren't able to score. If they score to cut it down to 3 or 4, maybe Meigs really tightens up, but fortunately for Meigs, they were able to get a stop on that possession and then kind of put the ball game away at the line. So it still ended up being a 9-point game. The only thing I'll say for Meigs though was, it was 37-17 about halfway through the third, and they pretty much just completely stopped scoring. So if you've only got the three kids that are going to shoot, you've got to figure out a way if they're not getting those baskets to be able to score because, Gunnar Cleveland, Griffin Hudson gave them great
Mhm.
minutes
Played really
defensively,
hard.
but I think they combined to take like 3 shots in the game, maybe 4 shots. So, I mean, if they're not getting looks at all, then you can kind of pack the zone. So whenever Davis does get it on the block, you can kind of push him out a little bit or double him to where that little baby hook that he takes is a lot more difficult. And I know that's something that's just going to keep improving throughout the season for them because they had to replace so many pieces from last year. It looked like they're only gonna have to replace a couple, but now it ends up being 3, and now Buechler is outstanding, but he's still new to the team. So, I what I liked about them most was defensively, and, as I said, what that ceiling can be on a night where Davis does get his shot to fall.
The thing I would add, I agree with everything you just said. The thing I would add on the 4th and 5th starter, I ended up seeing glimpses of it in our call yesterday.
Mhm,
The more those young men understand how to play away from the
mhm,
ball, the Davis kids can easily get them 4 to 6 points apiece a
mhm,
night. Where if those are the places on the floor that the double and triple team are coming from, understanding spacing, understanding cuts, making yourself available, and they ended up getting a few times
mhm.
down around the rim. But that you're right. That's going to be something that you've got to be able to make defenses punish for. Or they're going to start to throw the kitchen sink at one or two guys there.
Yeah, that would make them a little bit easier to guard, but that's gonna be a difficult team, playing out of the TVC. They've got a big one, they got Wellston this week, but also they've got Warren, which Warren replaced everybody from last year, but it's also Warren.
Still
They're
warm,
gonna
yeah.
be extraordinarily well coached,
Yeah.
and so I think that's gonna be a game to watch for later on this weekend. Let me
Yeah,
look.
that's Friday night, I believe. I think
Mm,
it's Thursday. The TVC and the boys, I
yeah,
think, are playing kind of a weird night here in the first round
yeah.
because they play Wellston Thursday night, and then I believe Warren at home the next night.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep. So it's at Wellston on Thursday and then home against Warren on Friday. I think that's gonna be one of the better games in the area this weekend. So, um, now going over to Westfall, I liked what I saw of Ethan Rose. I mean, he hit a couple threes in the corner. He gets fouled on the one. He was 2 for 4 from 3. There's 2 for 3 from the line. But I think if they could continue to find him, I think his ability to stretch the floor is gonna make it harder for teams to pack the paint like they were doing a little bit in that game last night.
Yeah, I can't stress enough the importance of Westfall being able to put a couple shooters on the court because, the Ray and Craig are so just relentless off the
Mhm.
dribble. I mean, they really are.
Mhm.
They're yeah, you can guard them and you think you're doing a good job, and before you know it, they've got you back down to
Mhm.
5 feet, or they stop and go, and they have you on their hip, and they can get to the free throw line. They can finish with some runners, and not everybody has the 6'8" kid protecting the
Yeah.
rim. So the ability to be able to have some shooters spotted up and some different things to where they can make you pay, all that's going to do is force you to have to make a decision and play those guys one on one. And most times throughout their career, when they get to go one on one, they're usually going to win.
Yeah. Now they got a tough week this week. They've got Huntington coming into the Dome on Tuesday. That should be a fun game to watch. And then at Uniota on Friday. And that's gonna be a team that's just gonna throw, you know, guys at Ray all night of like, hey, we got like 6 different guys that can guard the ball. Or,
Yeah.
so that's gonna give, gonna make things a little more difficult. But if Westfall shoots the ball better than they did from 3, they were 2 for 19 in
Mm.
that game yesterday. If they shoot the ball better from 3, they're gonna have a chance in any game that they play. It's just if they aren't able to stretch the floor, it is gonna be a little more difficult.
Thought the snow out was interesting with Westfall's St. Trace because obviously that was a huge early season standings game. Now the Uniota game comes up, and again, you can make an argument that early is the time to get this Uniota team as they still kind of find themselves play really really hard. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't doubt their effort. Those kids play really
Yeah.
hard. They're athletic, but they certainly are still finding their basketball legs
Mhm.
and rhythm. So you're right. That's a huge week here for Huntington to have a chance against Westfall to
Yeah.
get to stick their nose in this.
Mhm.
But then if you're Westfall, you don't want to slip up and let a team like Huntington get you.
Yeah, exactly, and then that game we mentioned that we were gonna stream got moved to January 27th, so got
So it's
pushed back.
completely different
Yeah.
dynamic than if it would have been game 2 or 3 for those respective teams.
Mhm. Yeah, so, that's one thing you gotta look for in these now, I guess the early season, when you're rescheduling games, you've got the whole season, but then when it gets
Yeah.
down to, like, late in the year,
Well, see, you're
it's like
talking to a
yeah.
baseball coach of 30 years. I always laugh at these basketball coaches. I don't know when we're going to schedule them or what. Well, I can tell you when they make you schedule it in baseball, it's the very next night, and they
Yeah,
don't care if you play 6 times this week.
exactly,
So, like,
so
what I mean? Like once you have a cancellation in basketball, your athletic director becomes a really, really important
mhm.
piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, so that's good that they found a date for that already. So we'll move on. We're gonna go out just kind of we're gonna go over some of the standout performances of the week. And then some of this might go back. I know on the girls' side it's gonna go back more than a week because we didn't really talk much girls basketball last
Mm,
week. So we're gonna start Tuesday. Lynchburg Clays, Tanner Roberts had 11 blocks
mhm.
in the Mustangs 53-50 win over McLean. Just how insane is it for anyone to get 11 blocks in a game?
Well, we just talked about it with Davis protecting the rim. John, I think you agree with me. When you statistically record 11 blocks, it's hard to be telling just how
Mm,
much more you influence in terms of either change a shot or make them not
mhm.
shoot it at all
Right.
because you know he's there. So you
Mhm.
start to drive and you get your shot blocked. Well, then the next time you kind of change the shot. Well, even though he doesn't block it, you don't really put the right type of
Mhm.
stroke on it or lay it up to the
Yep.
glass the same way you wanted to. Then there may be a time you just go and you're like, hey, he's there. I'm not even going to try to shoot it at
Mhm.
all. You know what I mean? So yeah, the 11 blocks and what happens when you do that early in the year? That gets out there to scouting report just like scoring 30 points, right?
Mhm.
It's one of those things of like, hey, they got a guy that blocked 11 shots, and you start talking about the shot rate. Now, can he continue to impact a game like that without foul trouble?
Right.
That's the next thing. Is a lot of times you start blocking shots and you can't wait to block some more. You get into the wrong matchup, and you get certain people that maybe pick up a tendency on film. He's obviously very important to his team, so
Mhm.
that'd be something that as the year goes on, he has to adjust to.
Yeah, and that's, for Lynchburg that, it gets it gets put on film then. So maybe,
Right.
a really smart coach or a smart player when they watch the film could be like, "Well, he's left his feet on that, so I know I can." Like, imagine now they'll play Westfall, but imagine Joe Ray with his patience on the attack to the basket. If he gets a read on that, it's gonna be ball fake, ball fake, ball fake, ball
Mhm.
fake, ball fake until he goes up, and then he's gonna go. So that's gonna be, Robert's only a sophomore. That's gonna be big for him to make that adjustment as well because it's gonna come because nobody wants their shot blocked that many times. So they're gonna make some adjustments offensively.
The other thing that's important is he blocking it against his man in terms of the one on
Mhm.
one, or is he coming off his man to go? Because the other factor of that is when he has to leave his man to go help, if he doesn't block the shot, is it the proper backside rotation to rebound?
Right.
So a lot of times what I found when I coached against the shot blocker, I still wanted to attack the shot blocker. And I felt like, okay, maybe we'll get a foul, or maybe we'll just get a ball up on the rim, and now they're out of position, and maybe someone on the backside can go and
Mm,
rebound. So again, there's such a skill set to that on the defensive
mhm.
end, being able to still help and recover. It's kind of what, again, going back to Davis. But I had a chance to watch this young man on a stream the other night against the Eastern Brown,
Mhm.
and he is a good looking athlete.
Yeah, a really nice athlete for the Mustangs. Now they dropped 2 games this weekend, but if you tune in or tuned in to the Coach's Call-In show, Coach Pertusek will be calling in, or Pertusik will be calling in on Sunday night. So check that out. And then another one, Fairlands, Trevor Locko, 27 points in the Dragons 60-58 road win at West. That's a really good win because West just put it on Warren at Warren to start their season opener. West Will Kegley had 25 points in the loss for
Mhm.
the Senators. They're going to win a lot of games. They're going to be okay. But for Fairland, that's 2-0, two quality road wins by a combined 3 points.
And you talk about battle tested, why not go through it early? But
Mhm,
I thought the Laco kid was really, really good on opening night when
mhm.
we had him on the stream.
Yeah.
He can really shoot the three. He is relentless.
Mm,
Strong upper body. When he gets his shoulders square to his target, he becomes really hard
mhm,
to guard without fouling.
mhm.
Yeah, he's a tough matchup for a lot of teams, and so that particular total 27 doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, and they were a team that I think we weren't sure what to expect because you returned 2 starters who were outstanding, him and Cliff Franson. Franson, I bel
Branson's very good.
Franson was close to 20 points in that game as well, so, I mean but in that game against St. Trace, they dealt with a huge roller coaster in that one
When
where
our guy Love,
yeah,
you talk about stretching the floor to
yeah,
keep it one on those guys. He'll get his feet set.
yeah,
He'll change the game from the
yeah,
3-point
Gerald
line.
Love was, had the game winner in that Zane Trace
Yeah.
game before they, really stepped in to get a stop defensively. But in the 2 games, they've given up 58 points in each game, so they're playing a fast tempo, which, probably talked to even you about when you played, like 58 points, whatever. But but the game's played at a different tempo, and the way the games are officiated now is much different. So you don't see as much scoring as you had in the past. But that's a Fairland team. That's going to be a really tough matchup for a lot of teams because of that pace that they play with.
It is, and you when you talk about the way the game's changed, the physicality and the way it's officiated's changed. The one place to offset that is in secondary break and
Yeah.
transition. So you get out in the open court, just a little bit more space. Maybe the defense hasn't set yet. Maybe the dribble gap's not as tight as they want it. Now all of a sudden, Laco gets downhill and gets one on one, and that's his best time to go.
Mhm. And then moving to Hillsborough. Hillsborough's Jack Hallen had 31 points in the Indians' 57-50 loss against North Adams. We had seen it as 41 points, and we did a little bit more research, and it ended up being 31. So 31 points for Howland. They lose to North Adams. North Adams had 3 players play really well. It was
Mhm.
Carson Davis, um, Kennedy, and
More and
yeah,
more.
Thaddeus Moore. All were in double figures. I believe Davis was over 20 points in that one. So
Guy
good.
Davis at 23 and Kennedy
Mhm.
at 15,
Yeah.
more 10, I believe.
Yeah, so that's a good way to start for that North Adams team who we didn't know exactly how they would be because they had to replace so many guys, but if you watch their JV guys before, you're like, "Oh, these guys can play." They just weren't at the same level as the 5 seniors that had started for 3 years, and and so it ends up, you think they're gonna take a little while, but they get a big win to start over Hillsborough. They beat West Union, so they're 2-0. For Hillsborough, though, they've got a big week this week starting on Tuesday. So Tuesday, we're going to be streaming down at Eastern Brown, Fairfield Eastern Brown. You'll see that on the bottom line here. We'll talk about that game here in a few minutes. But if you're not going to that, Hillsborough at Waverly is a game to watch because that's going to be really good guard matchup in that.
Mhm.
Waverly's Cage Alexander's been unbelievable so far. I know he was over 20 in each of their first 2 wins. I didn't see in the stats on Saturday's game that they lost a tight one to Zane Trace, but that's a Waverly team that's going to be a really tough matchup for Hillsborough. I think Waverly's probably the favorite in that matchup, but man, that's a really fun guard matchup.
No question. And remember in the opener, we watched Alexander kind of take on the challenge defensively as
Mhm.
well. So I don't know if those two necessarily be matched up a lot, but you're right. You'll be hard pressed to find two better guards when it comes to just creating your own shot, creating shots for others, and then being able to score. Allen can really get it done at the free throw
Mhm.
line too. So you're talking about
Well, that
kids with some range and some kids that can really handle the basketball.
And that could be something to keep an eye on because Waverly really only plays 6. So, if he can get a couple guys in foul trouble, that could make things a lot more difficult for Waverly down the stretch. But I think that's going to be a fun guard matchup for sure to keep an eye on. But speaking of Waverly, in that game against Zane Trace on Saturday, they were up 48-42 late. Zane Trace goes on an 11-0 run and then is able to hold off Waverly for a 53-50 win. A really good weekend for Zane Trace. 2 wins. They have a 25-point blowout over Piketon on Friday, which probably actually helped for Saturday, was the fact that they got the blowout and they were able
Stewart had a real big night in the
yes.
Piketon win, correct?
Yep, 24 points, hit
Yep.
6 threes in that game.
Blue.
So, I mean, it's a team that, you have Grady Stewart, you have Gunnar McCullough, but then, Roman Berry was the one tasked with guarding Alexander on Saturday, and by all accounts did an outstanding job in that. We liked what we saw out of Berry
Mhm.
in the opener.
I did.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just gonna make them a better team. Stevens does a really good job for them as well. And then you toss in, Bryce Johnson now into the starting lineup, and that's just gonna make them more physical, better defensively. And then if his offensive game can come along, that makes them a really tough matchup.
If you go back to last week's show and look at the timestamps there and listen to us talk about Zane Trace, remember the one thing we said about the depth of athletes. We knew kind of what to expect from those first two, three names you said. But what they're going to get as time goes on is they're going to get some physicality and some overall defense 50-50 balls, some rebounding, some different things that maybe they didn't have a year ago. So even though you might look at them on paper and say, man, they're missing some basketball things that they had last year that they're still trying to. I would argue that they have plenty of that still, but what they are having now is they have some real athletes that they can go toe to toe with just about anybody in terms of guarding and rebounding.
Yeah, it should be a really fun uh, team to watch throughout the season as they're
Yeah.
going to continue to get better and better with more experience as time goes on. So now we're going to go into a preview of this week's streaming games. We've got a couple of really good ones on our hands. I think you know maybe they're going to be really good for a variety of reasons, but we'll kind of see. You know, I think they've got the opportunity to be really entertaining games for sure. Now Tuesday, we're talking Leesburg Fairfield at Eastern Brown. So that'll be on Tuesday. Last year, that was a 44-42 game. Logan McIntosh got a steal and a layup at the buzzer to win it for the Lions. That was in our, it was one of the games we streamed. So you can find that in the archives. But these are very different teams from last year where, Eastern Brown had a couple of seniors that graduated, but they also had a really good, lead guard that has left for transfer. So now they're down to only one senior when I think they expected to have two or three. But Braxton Vance had 17 points in their opener. He's an outstanding interior player. They had a really good road win to start their season. I think they're a team that is going to be a really interesting matchup because of the balance that they're gonna bring.
Well, what impresses me about I'll start on the Eastern Brown side. When I had a chance to watch them in their opener the other night against Lynchburg, there's just the variety of guys that were involved in a variety of things. You
Mhm,
know what I mean? Like Vance played really well. Matthew Dick, their junior, is in the post, and then Dotson and Pinkerton and Raymer, Cluxton gave him some minutes. So they'll come out, they'll grind some flex offense against you, but then at the same time, if they get a chance to knock a ball loose and get out in transition, they're comfortable playing out in space as
mhm,
well. But then one of the calling cards of Eastern has always been their physicality.
mhm.
They really understand positioning. They're well coached, and I thought that really started to wear on Lynchburg the other night. So now when you go to on the Fairfield side and you start to look at that matchup, I guess I would ask you is Fairfield is a team that still has some kids in space that can really play, but in
Mhm.
the half court setting, I could see Eastern Brown's physicality bothering them. Do you see it as Fairfield maybe being a little bit more, um, I won't say track meet, but kind of getting out in space a little bit more and playing with a little bit of secondary break?
Yeah, I think so because if you get in the half court, then Eastern can kinda shrink the floor
Yeah,
and make things really difficult because, even though they don't have the sizes on them, Vance has really good size, Cluxton has good size, Matthew Dick has good size, and, Dick blocked 3 shots the other day. Vance and Cluxton can really, make things difficult for you on the inside as well. So, I mean, that's a nice kind of three-headed monster that they can
sure.
use at the same time. Cluxton came off the bench for him that night, but it gives them some good length, some good physicality inside, and then like a Chase Pinkerton has some really good length on the outside. Kane Dotson a little smaller, but man, he's ferocious defensively. So I think if you can get out and run on them, that's probably the best chance you have because if you get into that half court game, then things can get really difficult.
Yeah, just been really impressed what I've watched Fairfield over the last couple years, and now early on, haven't had a chance to see them in this particular group. But looking at some of these kids from last year, I know Friend had what 19 in their
Mhm.
opener, the tough loss there to
Yeah.
Fayetteville. But they have some guard play that I think could put some pressure on Eastern Brown and force them to maybe play a step faster than they want to.
Yeah, I agree with that because Griffin Friend, 11 points a game last season. He was all Shaq. And then special mention All Ohio Brody Smith averaged 17 points a game for him last year. He really stretches the floor well, can really shoot it from the outside. Quentin McIntosh is going to have his hands full in this matchup because there's just not a whole lot of size for them
Well,
besides.
but again, that's just
Yeah,
where I feel like they just need him to compete hard, which
yeah,
he will,
yeah.
and then they really need their guards to step up and play their very best.
Yeah, in that game last year, he had 5.6 rebounds. If they can just get that out of
Sure.
McIntosh, they're going to be pretty pleased with that. As it was a game where he just really competed hard. But man, it's going to be. I think that's got a chance to be a really interesting game, especially if Friend and Smith can get the pace moving at the pace that Coach Williams wants them to
I
play this
agree,
year.
but I also like what you said earlier. If you get into the half court set and you play it in kind of the way that the scouting report of Eastern Brown would want to play it, now all of a sudden you're going to have some physicality in the dribble gap. They're gonna get their body on you in terms of the way they screen you and they put the ball. And when you think flex offense, you think of just pounding the ball and something.
Mhm.
They utilize all the options in flex offense where they even come out and they'll shoot the three out of it a little bit.
Mhm.
They'll still drive a little bit. So yeah, that'll just be an interesting matchup. Coaching, the coach in me wants to just see how that game unfolds in the first couple minutes to see who can get the game going in their favor.
Yeah, so I think that'll be a really fun matchup for sure. I've got to see maybe the last 2 years when these teams have played, and they've been really, really good matchups in both of those as well.
Yeah, it's the classic last year. Sure,
And then the one the year before went to overtime, and that was
even better. You're right.
I think it was a 7-0 run in the last 50 seconds for Fairfield, forced overtime, and then they were able to win
Yeah.
in that one. So
And real quick, I'm the first to admit I've been an SVC lifer. I love basketball. I get a little jealous sometimes with the Shack.
yeah,
Like you watch basketball in that conference, and they love their basketball.
mhm,
There's a passion in their fan bases. Their atmospheres are old school. It's just they don't have the football all fall,
right.
so like they've been craving this opportunity to come together, school spirit and so forth. And it's kind of a fun thing to be a part of.
Yep, I agree completely. Should be a really fun matchup. Now, on Friday, our first Kingston National Bank SVC game of the week will be Paint Valley at Adena in a matchup that when we scheduled, we thought, it's going to look like it's going to be, maybe on the lower end kind of the standings of the SVC. But man, this Adena team seems to be for real. And Paint Valley really pushed a good Westfall team on Friday night. So I think Paint Valley's got a chance if they shoot the ball well to make this a really competitive game.
What's happening to Paint Valley right now is they're having trouble, as a lot of young teams do,
Mhm.
competing at the physicality and speed of the varsity game for 32 minutes. If you pick out segments of all their games, they've been really
Mhm.
impressive. I mean, they went. I saw where McLean's off to like a 2-1 start. Uh, Paint Valley played a really good first half against
Mhm.
McLean. Third quarter it started to get away a little
Mhm.
bit. Western they got down 14. They come all the way back tied at 60
Mhm.
late. They lose by three. The other night, they jump out on Westfall. They jump out Friday night. Paint Valley up 10-2, up at the end of the first quarter, tied at halftime. And again, slowly but surely, just the skill set of Ray and Craig and company just kind of take over. So what you'll see from them is you'll see a group that plays really hard. Um, Landon Elliott shot the three ball well the other night. Jace Reinhardt gives them some scoring. They mix a lot of young kids in with Burke's been playing some minutes but a huge key for them is going to be Brennan Eisen. Yeah, he
Mhm.
hasn't been able to find quite his rhythm yet early in the year. He's been in some foul trouble. That's something you'd like to see him just avoid to be able to get to the flow. But if they could get him going a little bit, the way they're starting to shoot the three around him, I think they could be on to something there. So that's something to look for. And then obviously on the Adena side, we talked about them a lot earlier. Their size and their athleticism is going to present quite a challenge to Paint Valley because they can come at you in a variety of ways, as we've already discussed.
Yeah, and it's just going to be a game where Paint Valley's going to have to really rebound the basketball
Yeah.
because of that size that Adina can throw at you. And I think the good thing is athletically they're going to be able to throw some people um, at Francis to try to make things a little more difficult for him. He's still such a good athlete, such a good shooter that it makes it really difficult. But they've got the different guys that they can throw at the ball handlers and try to speed them up, and that's been kind of the kind of the bugaboo so far for Adina has been handling the ball because I know against Unio they had almost 20 turnovers in the first half, and it was just off of Unio's pressure.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And tempo is going to be a really hard thing for Paint Valley to decide what they want there because the thing Adena has started to show is the ability to score at maybe a higher rate than maybe people thought coming into the year. I know that Unioto game got going kind of fast the other night, and the speed of that game kind of bothered them a little bit. I thought that was probably the most I've seen them out of rhythm
Mhm.
in the early going here. But now leading up to that, I should have been more prepared. Uh, who do those teams play before that? Adena, did they have Westfall first this week?
Um, no, West or Adena has Zane Trace first.
Oh wow, okay.
So let me look real quick. This
So that's always interesting too because we're sitting here on a Sunday talking about next Friday. Well, you know how high school sports work. How teams continue to play throughout the week and lead into that. That's going to be a factor as
yeah,
well.
Adena hosts St. Trace, Paint Valley hosts Piketon on Tuesday.
Okay. So see again, those as always in the league, those are going to test you a little bit, and then you're going to come back into the film room and the practice floor, and you're going to have uh, basically 2 days to prepare. So
Mhm.
that could be a factor in that as well.
Yeah, so that game, those are going to be our streaming games for this week. So Tuesday, well, we also have a girls' game, which once again you'll see on the bottom line here. You better appreciate the bottom line compared to last week because that was a long time. It was also watching the Buckeyes set up or settle for a 27-yard field goal at the time. I'm like, I only missed, but those things happen. It
Yeah.
happens. So, um, especially with kids. So jumping to some of the games to watch this week, and this is gonna be one of those great segments of like, hey, I'm just gonna go through the schedule and pick
And
out
then you can
some.
say, "Hey, I told you to watch that."
Yeah. So Monday night you got Circleville at Washington. I think that's got a chance to be really interesting. Circleville has had some lower scoring games than I anticipated. They had a good win over Logan Elm this week, a 43-33 game, which they didn't turn the ball over in the second half. I think Vinton County at Athens has a chance to be interesting. That's also on Monday. Um, let me jump ahead to Tuesday. St. Trace at Adena. I mean, we talked about Adena a lot so far this episode, and maybe more than we thought we'd
Well,
talk about all year.
Zane Trace is an intriguing team though because they've played some couple good non-league opponents here, and they've been battle tested early. And um, I really think that Zane Trace team has a chance to be really good.
Mhm. I do as well. Then Huntington at Westfall on Tuesday. Guy Academy at Jackson. Guy Academy had Waverly on the ropes on Friday, and Waverly made a nice run late in that one. We already talked about Hillsborough at Waverly as one to keep an eye on. Northwest at Valley. I know Derek's going to be at that one. That'll be a fun matchup. I think Eastern Pike might start with Minford on Tuesday. Let me
I'm
see.
intrigued by the Jackson team too. They're a team that has quite a bit back, and you as competitors, when you go through something they went through at the end of last year, that sits with you a little bit. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's one of those things where they've had a lot of success in a lot of sports, but they had a really good basketball season
Mhm.
last year, but it didn't end nearly the way they
Right.
thought it was going to. So I think this as a coach and as an athlete, that kind of just sits with you a little bit. So that Jackson team this year is one that I'm really just kind of watching to see how they unfold. 'Cause you think that'd be a really hungry group.
Exactly. So, then obviously Fairfield at Eastern Brown. Make sure you watch us
Mhm.
here on SOSA on the YouTube channel. But another one in the shack that has a really good chance to be fun is North Adams at Peoples. I mean, Peoples scored over 90 points in a win over Manchester the other day. They're going to score some points. They're going to get out and play, and that's going to be their first big time chances.
Take the over, you're saying?
Yes, take
Okay.
the over
Yeah.
for sure. Wednesday night. Fairfield Union at Logan Elm. That's kind of a strange time for that being the only league game in in the MSL that night. But Fairfield Union's got off to a really nice start. Logan Elm, we saw had some nice toughness about them in their matchup, their win over Bexley to start the season. Thursday, River Valley at Nelsonville, I think could be fun. And that's a take the over as well as River Valley, not a big defensive team so
You know, we
far.
joke about that sometimes too, John, but like a lot of times early in the year when you have a team that you think is going to be pretty good and don't find yourself defensively, sometimes it takes one or two of those games where the coach now has the film and you can be like, you just have one of those honest moments of
Mm.
like, this is the effort
Yep.
we're going to give or not. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, so let's track these teams and give them a fair chance to improve on the defensive end.
Yep. And then another one on Thursday, Southern at Waterford. I think people had a lot of high expectations for Southern on the year.
Southern's got a chance to be really
Yeah,
good.
Waterford had a nice road win at Eastern on Saturday. So I mean, or that may have been Friday. Either way, it's a good road win for
Yeah.
them. But those will be on Thursday. On Friday, you've got Westfall at Uniota. Um, Let me check Pay Valley at Adena. As we said, make sure you check it out here as the Kingston National Bank SVC Game of the Week. Jumping down Northwest at Waverly. Waverly's got a tough week this week. As that's not even the I don't even know if that's the toughest game so far. So Northwest with a tough week with Valley and Waverly this week. Um, Eastern at West, I think has an opportunity to be a really good game on Friday night. Um, Let me see. People's at White Oak. I mean, White Oak seemingly played well in their uh, game against McLean. They lose on a heartbreaker there. Warren at Meigs, I think could be fun. Waterford at Trimble is another one. And then Saturday, um,
I think Saturday Eastern and Waverly play.
yes,
Talk about that way.
Eastern Brown at Waverly. That was the one. I was kind of like
Wow.
the thought process on that one was going to be a good one. Now, Battle of 740 at Shawnee State. You've got on Saturday Eastern Meigs against Sims Valley at 11, Piketon and Northwest at 12:30, Southern and Portsmouth at 2. That one's going to be an interesting one. Fairfield versus Valley at 5, Harvest Prep against Chesapeake at 6:30, and then Chillicothe against Fairland at 8 p.m.
Wow.
That's a
That's an
little
interesting
yeah,
day.
it's a little pricier ticket to get in, but one ticket gets you in for the whole day, so it's going to be a good atmosphere down there. And then Circleville at Hamilton Township, which I mean that one, who knows at this point because the Fairfield Union Hamilton Township score from the other day. Um, Athens at Logan. That's a nice little rivalry matchup as well. And then Saturday or Sunday, we'll have some games as well down at the Battle of the 740, which is Hillsborough against West is at noon. Rock Hill against Huntington is at 1:30. I think that's got a chance to be a sneaky good game. And then Uniota and Wheelersburg is at 6. And I think Ashland, Kentucky plays the late game that night. That'll be a man. I saw some highlights of a couple of the freshmen they have. And man, they were unreal last year when we did those games, and I think they're gonna be even have a chance to be even better this year as well.
Yeah, a lot of good matchups in that event down there.
Yeah, so, once again, it's down at Shawnee State. It's one ticket gets you in for each day, and I think it's each day. I think you have to pay for both days, but, should be a good event as it typically is. So, now we're gonna jump over to the girls' basketball side. Which, we streamed a couple of games there, and both were really fun games.
Mhm.
First one was on Monday, was Piketon at Logan Elm. Talk about a roller coaster of a game. That one was all over the place.
Yeah, 2 teams that play a pretty similar style, so they didn't have to really fight each other too much to get into the tempo that they wanted to play at. And as a result, you had a game of runs. One, Logan Elm jump out, Piketon come back, then Piketon would go way up, Logan Elm would come back, then Logan Elm got in front, Piketon threatened late. So it was a back and forth seesaw battle. Really good guard play, and that I was really really impressed. With Ray and Ingram and Teddy and Groff and their ability to share the ball
Mhm,
and do a lot of things. And then obviously on the Piketon side with Kelly and Forbes and
mhm,
I thought Shanks was really really
mhm,
good that night. That's a good sign if you're a Piketon fan. Daniels and then I think we both really like some of their young kids that are
mhm,
coming in like Roberts and so forth. So um, uh, Hell stretched the floor with a three that night. And again, I'm probably missing somebody, but it was just one of those games where there was a lot of nice flow to it, and both teams applied some defensive pressure. Both teams maybe got a little sloppy in some of their rotations early, but the intensity really picked up into the fourth quarter of that game, and That was a good win for Logan Allen.
Yeah, it's a really good win. So if you didn't see it, there is a highlight package um, that is on YouTube. So it pretty much has kind of the flow of the game in
Yeah.
it. So Logan Elm starts off up 11-0. And then the next time you look at the scoreboard, it's 17-11. Piketon's winning. So a 17-0 run after an
Yeah.
11-0 run. Then later in the half, it ends up being, I believe the biggest lead was 13 for Piketon. Logan Elm able to get it down to 5 at the
I thought
break.
that was huge.
Yeah, that they had, you know, couple they got kind of a break where, Shanks was a little shaken up on a play and it wasn't noticed until after the play. And Kiana Ingram just did a great job of stepping in and she hit and it was not a short three.
And
She
I
hits
don't
a
have
deep
the
three.
roster in front of me. The young guard off the bench for Logan Allen, the Timmons.
Yep,
Yeah,
Timmons.
that was a huge shot in the corner
Yep.
too. So that game, it looked like Piketon was going to get to the half, maybe up 8, 9, 10 points, and all of a sudden, even though you're winning, you feel like, man, we kind of let them off the hook
Right.
here a little bit. Logan Elm got back, and I thought that momentum started into the third quarter
Yep.
for the Lady Braves.
And it started in a big way because Palin Ray hits a three, and then Palin Ray finds Kenny Groff on,
Groff was really good in
yeah,
that third quarter.
yeah, back-to-back threes there. So they hit 3 threes to go from down, believe it may have been 6 at the half, but they went from like down
I thought
6
it
to
was
one.
37-32 at the
Yeah,
half,
okay.
maybe, and then they just, yeah, you're right, they
Yeah,
just took over the game.
yeah. So yes, it was 37-32, and then the first Groff three gave them a 38-37 lead. The second one pushed it to 4, and then, Ingram started to come alive a little bit. Petty played really well for them throughout that game as well, and I thought Malia Gardner did a really good job for them as she
She
had a
did.
couple baskets late, but just did a lot of winning plays throughout.
I worry. I love their guard play.
Yeah.
I just worry about their lack of size when I know at that division and that conference the level of size and athlete they're going to play.
So we'll talk about. It's one
Well,
of
I
our
guess we will. Yeah,
one of our standout performances of the
yeah.
week. So for Logan Elm, they got off to an undefeated start because they later on in the week they absolutely hammered Waverly up at Logan Elm as well. That was a 30-point game. Piketon bounced back really well from that as they won a tight one against Southeastern, and then they were losing much of the first half against Adena and ended up with a 17-point win there at home over Adena on Saturday. So good week for Piketon, even with the loss
Yeah.
of that.
Again, sometimes Python, if it's the tempo they play with or want to play with, they get caught in their identity sometimes who they want to be. That final score got really close in Southeastern. Throughout that game, they were somewhat in control of
Hmm.
it. Gosh, I want to say at one point they were up 15 to 20 points, and then you just let a team come back a little bit. But you're right. Python, that's a really nice start to league play for them. When you consider the Paint Valley went over Huntington, and then you start to look getting that Adena win. That's a nice start for Python.
Yeah, they had 5 different players in double figures throughout the week. Kelly and Forbes are the ones you hear about mostly, but Daniels, Shanks was really good in that
Really
game
good,
against Logan Elm,
really good.
and then Taylor Roberts as well in that game against
She could
Logan Elm.
really again give it time.
Mhm.
Instead of just judging a kid like the very first varsity game
Yep.
ever, give it 10 games, 12 games, and you're going to start to see a comfort level there where you're like, oh wow, that's a huge piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and that is a Piketon team that has started off 3-2 on the season. They've got a big one on Thursday with Uniota, which we'll see if Uniota is 100% when
Mhm.
that game comes, because that could make a big impact in that game as well. So, moving on to our Saturday evening game, which, man, this is a fun one. I don't know if we knew exactly what to expect out of Southeastern and Westfall, but it turned out to be everything that we could have hoped for and even more.
I think going in, and I didn't know that it was going to play out even as much as it did, but I thought we had a chance to see some pretty good offensive play because both of these teams, when they're able to dribble, pass, and catch and run their stuff, they have some really good offensive
Mhm.
players. You think about it on the one side, obviously Gracie Brown's a kid who, 2 years ago hit like almost 63s. I mean, she's proven that she can be a double digit scorer. And then obviously Ruckle down low. And then I thought Fisher played really well. I've seen Skaggs shoot the three well. Stouffer plays really really hard for them. So there's kids. Turner can come off the bench and score a little bit. Then you go to the Westfall side. I think Adrian Mel is one of the more versatile stars we have in our league. I mean, she averaged 14 a game
Mhm,
last year, and then Cook. And then Boffman, I think, is a real breakout
mhm,
player this year. I've been real impressed with her. So my point is, you add all that up, and you felt like, okay, if they come in here and they're able to play in some space and handle the basketball, you're going to see their offensive talent kind of start to get to play.
mhm,
In a lot of matchups, they can't handle the ball against the type of pressure they see, so you don't get a good look. And as a result, John, we what? We get 34 points in the first quarter, seventeen
mhm,
17, and it was kind of just a fun flow.
yeah,
Then what was interesting is as the game moved on, the intensity started to pick up a
mhm.
little bit. Physicality started to pick up a little bit. The crowd gets into it a little bit more, and you just had a good old fashioned SVC Instant Classic down the stretch, and you and I were lucky enough to be a part of
Yeah, and that's you mentioned the crowd, like, the Dome does that so well to where it doesn't have to be a huge
it.
crowd.
No,
The Dome is going to make it to where imagine if they didn't have the stuff on the ceiling,
yeah.
because that would be like, that would have been unreal atmosphere. Although they would have heard literally everything we said because it would have bounced where we were sitting up top, would have bounced off the ceiling and came back down, so it's probably better for us, especially in between in the downtime. So yeah, it's just we'll have a little highlight clip that's going to go out. I don't know if it's going out tonight with the coaches call and show out, but it'll be out, just at the last minute. The whole game was really fun to watch, but the last minute, because you had Mail hit that three in the corner, a step back
Yeah.
three to give them the 3-point lead. Then a couple of misses for Southeastern. Westfall goes 2 for 4 at the line, goes up by 5 with 18.6 to play, and that's when it got real crazy because,
Yeah.
Gracie Brown gets a pass off an inbounds, goes, end to end in 6 seconds, scores, timeout, to cut it to a 3-point lead, and then Westfall steps in on the pass, so it turns it over with 12.2 to play, and then they run a really nice set to get Gracie Brown a shot. She does a good job of pump faking, dribbling in, and then a step back three with what looked to be 5.7 on the clock. It ended up being 6.8 was put on the clock. And because of that, going from 5.7 to 6.8. Now I watched it back. The whistle blew before 5.7. I don't know if it was 6.8 or not, but it did blow a little earlier. And, then Adrian Mail goes coast to coast, misses the first one, and then gets put back at the buzzer for the game winner, and she got it off with about 0.2 of a second left. So there's every second matters in a matchup like that. So congratulations to Westfall on their first win.
Yeah, it was just you did a great job of summing that up there. That last stretch had a lot. And again, think about the names you're saying, the names I was talking about coming in. I loved how I loved how Brown was seeking her shot down the stretch.
Mm,
Some kids kind of run and hide in the corner there, and they don't want any
mm.
part of that. You could tell she's like, "Well, I'll shoot it." You know what I mean?
Right.
Like and she buried it. But then at the same time, a game on the line. You go to the other side, and your best player on the other side, with Cook already had fouled out, and she takes the ball. You and I were even talking on the timeout of like, look, if Mel catches this ball moving in the right direction, she can easily get it to the rim in this amount of time.
Mhm. Yeah, so she got it there in the original time and then was able to get the putback because
Yeah.
of that little bit extra to go on. But in the game, and you did it, I'm blaming you for this.
Ah,
Southeastern was 15 to 25 at the free throw
yeah.
line. So you had mentioned, they're shooting well. Shayne mentions that, and they go 0 for their next 7.
And they really
Yeah,
have throughout their career. Some of their top
yeah.
players, when you
Well,
look throughout the league, they have been pretty solid free throw shooters.
well, you take out that 0 for 7 run though. I mean, that's 15 to 18 in the game. So I mean, outside of like immediate
Yeah,
announcer jinx.
yeah,
They
yes.
they shot the ball pretty well, but, Gracie Brown had 22 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals in
Yeah,
the game, was
really
just
good.
all over the floor. Rowan Ruckle had 10 points, 6 rebounds, Allie Fisher with 9, 7 of those came in the 3rd.
Fisher was really good in
Yep.
that third quarter.
Fisher fouled out, Mackenzie Cook fouled out for Westfall. She
Yeah,
ended up
I
with
think
14.
Cook's gonna be really good.
Yes.
I mean, she's gonna continue to learn. I thought she made some silly fouls yesterday. She can really play. She can
Mm.
really score. That don't be surprised if you see a game here somewhere in the next month where you turn on the website there and see that Cook went for 30 because I think she's
Exactly.
that good. She can really play.
Yeah, so she's an outstanding player for them. Bachman with 10, and then Adrian Mail had 18 points, including that game winner at the buzzer. That last minute was a great matchup between Mail and Brown. So, really fun matchup between those two. So, a good win for Westfall, protecting their home court, and just overall should give them a little bit of momentum going into the season.
Southeastern's played a lot of games.
Yeah, Southeastern has played a lot
Some
of games.
aggressive scheduling, and both of those teams are going to continue to play a role in the SBC standings. Again, they're going to be capable of beating a lot of different types of teams because they can present some matchup problems for you in terms of guarding some of their all league talent.
Yeah, I completely agree. It should be um, couple really fun teams to follow throughout the season. So now we do, each week we do the Perfection One collision of the game.
Mhm.
It's typically from our streaming games. And this week, our collision of the game is going to go to Southeastern's Dylan Skaggs as she took a really big charge in the second half of the Panthers game over Westfall on Saturday evening. It was a very physical game, and then Skaggs just really did a good job of stepping over, taking a big time charge for the Panthers and keeping some momentum for them. And then remember that you can find Perfection One in Pickaway, Pike, and Ross counties, and you'll find that they are highly recommended.
Yeah, Skaggs did a great job on help defense. Remember, she had some times where she helped a teammate on the backside, maybe getting beat on a backdoor cut. That time you're referring to, she was able to step over there and really square up and take the hit. Really, really good help defender.
Yeah, so outstanding work by her on that play. So um, it was a really fun game to call and a fun game to watch. And
Yeah.
once again, thank you to Westfall for setting us up really well there, and then of course Kenneth for going to the game and sticking it out for us all day.
The
So
doubleheader action.
yep.
Yeah.
So some of the standout performances, we had a lot of these on the girls' side where we were kind of joking of like, man, we got a good number of this. First, I mean, there's multiple players at 40 points on the week, and I'm not going to start with a 40-point game. That's how impressive some of these performances were. Peebles Kendall Myers in their 52-41 win on November 25th. So I said we're going to go back a little bit on this. She had 26 points and 30 rebounds.
Wow.
Here's the thing. She's listed at 5'7". So that's just 1,000,000% effort. And just, you know, it took me half of my senior year to get 30 rebounds. I was 5'9". So, I mean,
Yeah.
5'7" and getting 30 rebounds in a game is unbelievable.
You're right about the effort. It's a motor. Some kids just have a knack for the basketball and a nose for the basketball. They just refuse to let you get it, and they're going to get it, and that's a phenomenal stat for sure.
Yeah, so really impressive work there by Kendall Myers. So, staying in the shack for a couple more. Now we'll jump to a 40-point game here in a second, but Ripley's Brooklyn Manning had 25 points for the Blue Jays in a 54-51 win over West Union. And we've talked about it a couple different times on here, just standings games. That's a huge standings win for Ripley, and the Manning does a great job of stepping up for them to get that win.
No question about it. And again, it always impresses you. The stats are fun to look at. The stats one thing, but like the bottom line of is when it's involved in the result of winning. You know, what I
Mhm.
mean that makes it that much more impressive.
Yeah, and Manning coming off of she's a senior this year. She averaged 12 points a game last year, 17 and a half points a game this year, only 5'7", but helps lead that Ripley team and as they look to have a successful season. In that same game, West Union's Madison Stout and Annabelle McIntosh each had 16
Yeah.
for the Dragons. As you know, they graduated some outstanding players last year. Those will be some teams to watch in that uh, Division One of the Shack this season. For North Adams and their 48-32 win over Lynchburg Clay, they got 17 from Tinsley Burns. Um, she's going to be
Terrific
just an
player.
outstanding player to watch. And then Emma Pistol was 16 in that game. So keep an eye on North Adams as well. I believe they are out to a 2-1 start on the season, 2-0 in league play. But now let's get to a couple 40-point performances. White Oaks, Kyra Boyd, 40 points against Peebles. Here's where it gets even crazier. So 40 points, she had 12 rebounds, 4 steals. She was 16 of 26 on the field, 6 of 14 from the
I
line.
saw that.
Yeah,
I saw that. Yeah.
yeah, so 6 of 14 from the line, still gets to 40. Just shows how dominating she was in that game.
Well, and the thing that jumps out at me from a coaching perspective is the 14 attempts. So a kid who is that type of mismatch and a matchup nightmare, you start getting to the line double digit per game, and you're almost going to accidentally score 20. And
Mm.
and obviously very capable offensive player when you score 40. That 6 of 14, I'm sure, knowing the type of player she is, she'll get some time in the gym there and get that fixed at the free throw line.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And then this is kind of what we talked about earlier. You mentioned the size
Yeah.
for Logan Elm, how it could impact them. Circleville's Addison Edgington had 40 points in their 63-47 win over Logan Elm on Saturday.
And I did not see that game, but just watching Logan Elm as closely as I had coming in, and then knowing a little bit about Circleville, that was my biggest concern. Was not 40 concern.
Yeah.
That's an incredible, but it certainly worried you in terms of if Logan Elm's not able to turn some of the guard play in the Mid-State League over. I have a real concern for them on the front line, and I think that kind of showed itself there a little bit.
Yeah, and Circleville with a really nice week. They wins over Bloom Carroll, Logan Elm, and then they also beat a good Athens team, which you can read about on sosaohio.com. Me and Derek were at that game. Ends up coming down to a missed free throw with a second and a half left. It was a really good game. Um, Edgerton didn't do much in that game, but Maddie Blakeman was outstanding. She had a double double, 15 points and 10 rebounds in that game, including the rebound to close out the game. And it just shows the depth that they've had. They've dealt with a lot of adversity in the offseason, and it seems like they're kind of settling in, and now they're off to a really good start on the season.
No question about it. And in that game you're talking about with Athens, I think that gives you a pretty good idea of why Athens is considered by many to be at the top of the TVC Ohio there with some other teams such as Alabama.
Yeah, so that was a night where Athens did not shoot well until about 2 minutes left in the third, and then they shot extraordinarily well after that, and that got them a chance. They got a late lead, and then a Brooklyn Kramer who came back from a knee injury, only her second game back, but she scores to tie the game. Blakeman scores to take the lead, and then they get a big stop late in that game. So some really impressive players, and then I'll tell you one that um, you know Payne Valley, 3-0 this week. They
Yeah.
won 3 games last year.
Yeah.
So 3-0 this week. Um, you know, I think that just says,
Yeah.
I know that people were excited at Payne Valley about kind of their future, what was coming for them. But 2 straight years, they go 3-20, 2 straight years. This year, off to a 3-1 start. Just an outstanding start for them in Bainbridge.
When you look at Coach Norman's passion and energy she brings, this is the type of team she's been waiting on for a long time, I think. A lot of times at the smaller school, you just aren't always going to have the depth. Now, she has some phenomenal teams, but a lot of those teams were maybe like a six deep. She might have been able to spot that seventh person sometimes. She has a team right now. When you talk about top performers, Kerstei's off to a terrific start. She's averaging about 18 a game, and she's been pretty much a walking double double.
Mhm.
But when you look down through the roster, John, this Paint Valley team offers 9 or 10 athletes that can play a little bit, and they all can do something.
Yes.
And so this fits Coach Norman's personality a little bit more. She can sub a little bit freely. Foul trouble doesn't become as big a problem. Their biggest bugaboo right now is they got to take care of the basketball. They've had some issues at the free throw line a little bit, but those are all things you can correct.
Mhm.
And for them to go out and show the ability in a little bit of a faster game to break things open against St. Trace, but then come back in a rivalry game and win 39-34, was it,
Yes.
against Huntington? That's just a big gut check type of win there. So they're starting to show that they can win a couple different ways, and it's baby steps, but that's a huge week for the Paint Valley Lady Cats. So congratulations, Coach Norman and those girls.
Mike Collier was really good all week. You mentioned Karis Dye, obviously. Delaney Mannion got in double figures. Whitney Oots, Haley Crouch, among others. I know Emily Burke's a freshman they're really excited about. She gives them some really good energy as well. It's just been a really nice start for them.
Well, and as you read off those names, I'm thinking, well, there's a senior, there's a freshman, there's a sophomore. Yeah, and it's just there's some depth of age. They seem to get along pretty well together, and they're playing really hard, which you expect all of Coach Norman's teams to do. But again, this is something that's the depth is allowing her to extend the floor a little bit more, which I know is something she's always wanted to do. And the kids are playing really hard for her right now.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun team to watch as well. I know Derek is going to get there to when they play Southeastern this week. I think he's going to be there to cover that game. Um,
Another interesting matchup.
Yeah, so should be a fun week ahead. So looking forward to seeing how that game goes. I believe that's Thursday night. And now we will have one girls game to stream this week, and this one should be really fun. It's
Not too bad.
Mount Notre Dame, 8-time state champion. Mount Notre Dame, the Cougars, 22-3 a season ago. They're 3-0 on the season, as we mentioned, 8-time state champions. They are coming into Portsmouth on Saturday. Let me see if I can even find the time for that game at this point, because I know on our bottom line, I don't even have a time listed. Um, but should be a really fun matchup for sure. It's listed at 7 p.m. So be a good game to watch on Saturday night. And really, this is a Portsmouth team, 3-1. They got a good win today on Sunday over Reynoldsburg, a 16-point win. They dealt with some adversity in a win over Ironton this week, and so they should have a full lineup again against Ironton. They finished with 5 players on the court, only started with 6. So they are a very small roster, but man, all of them can play.
Yeah, it's that's about as simple as you can put it. It's obviously you can face some adversity when you only have the 6 players, but it's a group that can really play. They obviously at their talent level are going to be way ahead of about 3/4 of their schedule. So I think what coach has tried to do there, she's tried to go out and really uh, put her team to the test.
Hmm.
And they've had some really tight non-league games so far. Some good opponents. This is going to be
Yeah.
yet another one. But again, you're trying to keep your eyes on the big prize that they know all
Hmm.
about. Uh, they had their banner ceremony the other night, which I'm sure was really cool for their
Hmm.
community. And once you do that, you kind of you start to understand big picture and process. So why not in the regular season get out there and put your team to the test?
Yeah, I look forward to getting down to Portsmouth and seeing the sign when you come into town, because you got the sign for all the boys state championships,
Right.
and now you've got one. Well, I know they added 2 signs because you had the Notre Dame softball state
Yes.
championship, and now you got the
Yes.
Portsmouth girls basketball state championship as well. So very impressive for Coach Hughes. Sienna Allen going to Ohio University, going to be outstanding. KK Meigs going to Shawnee State to play, which they're moving up to D2. So
Yep.
that says even more. Looking forward to seeing where like a Kiki Woods goes on to play as well. So it's a team that they're going to play with a ton of energy, even with a small roster, and should be a really fun one to watch down there in Portsmouth
Yeah.
on.
Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, then kind of like we did in boys, gonna just kind of go through the week and see some of the games to watch for in the area. I'll tell you one that is kind of a sneaky game on Monday. Paint Valley at White Oak. White Oak with Kyra Boyd just putting up the 40
40
points. They've
points.
they've had a complete roster turnover from a year ago, and then Paint Valley starting off the season well.
It did a lot of confidence. So that is going to be a big matchup. Then you mentioned some big league matchups to follow there. So Yeah, that's an interesting matchup there to see if they can get that talented score under control.
Yeah, I think Miami Trace at Piketon has a chance. Gracie Lovett, a really good player, guard wise for Miami Trace. Miami Trace beat Adena, and Piketon just beat Adena as well. I think Piketon probably the favorite in that game, but that's going to be a good test for them.
Yeah, I've seen Miami Trace play Uniota, seen Miami Trace play Adena. Feel like I have a pretty good feel for them, and I would agree that has a chance to be a really good matchup. Some of the same characteristics of Logan L, maybe not quite
Mhm.
the same, but should be a really good one.
Yeah, and then Athens at River Valley. River Valley's got a couple nice pieces. Athens has a nice team overall. That one should be a fun one to watch. That's on Tuesday. Um, Fed Hawk at Eastern Meigs. Eastern Meigs absolutely put it on Waterford this weekend. A 35-point win, which you never see against Waterford. I know Waterford graduated a lot, but to me, that just shows how talented that Eastern Meigs team can
Well,
be.
that might have been years of frustration.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I'm sure it hasn't been the most enjoyable hour and a half playing Waterford and
Yeah.
girls basketball here forever. So,
Yeah.
so I'm sure that a Hawking team that has the opportunity to do that certainly enjoyed that. I bet.
I agree completely on that. Wednesday, you've got uh, Trimble at Belpre. That's got an chance to be interesting. Belpre's uh, probably played Fort Fry the toughest of any of the teams that have played him so far, but they've had a couple of strange scores as well. They've got a couple of nice players. That one has a chance to be interesting. Thursday, if Uniota isn't fully healthy, that Piketon at Uniota game could be a really, really tight game. And even if Uniota's healthy, that's still got a chance to be a really nice game if Piketon shoots the ball well.
It's really interesting to see the matchups. You know, the thing that I think has caught a lot of people's attention when we highlighted the Paint Valley over Huntington score. Don't forget, it's just a couple nights earlier. Huntington played Uniota
Mm,
at full strength and played between 7 and 15 most of
yep.
the night. I think the
Mm,
final score might have been 12.
yep.
So you're right. I mean, I think as you go into those games, you never know. That's why they roll the ball out and play them. But first and foremost, you just hope that all the reports come back good and that everybody is healthy because man, you understand kids only get to do this 4 times, and you certainly don't want to see a kid lose one to injury.
Exactly. So hopefully all news ends up being good news there. So jumping down, White Oak at Fayetteville Thursday. That one's got a chance to be really good as well. That Fayetteville team has just destroyed their opponents so far. A 50-point win over Fairfield a couple of days after Fairfield beat a pretty solid Adena team. So I mean, to me, that just says how talented that Fayetteville team is.
There's no question about it. And I think, you're already doing it there a couple times. I think what happens when you have a kid like Boy go for 40,
Mhm.
now all of a sudden all their games become kind of like, I almost here to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where, and you read the article about that game, even the coach kind of talks like he feels like there's even another level she can
Mhm.
play at in her all around game, kind of
Right.
challenging her. So that's going to be an interesting team to follow. And you're right. It makes each of their matchups a little bit intriguing.
Then Friday, here's a kind of strange one. Huntington against Jackson at Chillicothe. It's kind of a weird 7:15 start on. Yeah, so that one I feel like
Is that part of something? Like
I
miss an event or something?
I don't even see Chillicothe as playing at home that night. So that's going to be an interesting one. I don't know if that's like an OU Chillicothe
Huh.
or what, but yeah. So that one's got a chance to be interesting. Logan Elm at Bloom Carroll that night would be a nice test for Logan Elm. Going down, I think you got Alexander at Athens. I think that's going to be a chance to be a you know a huge game in the TVC Ohio. Belpre at Eastern Megs, another one. That's a Friday one as well. And then Saturday, moving over, um, Huntington at Piketon. I think has a chance to be a fun one as well.
Mhm.
Fairfield Union at Miami Trace, some really good guards there. As Macy Martindale for Fairfield Union should lead them. Um, let's see. Going down, I think Georgetown at Eastern Brown typically is a pretty solid game. Mount Notre Dame at Portsmouth obviously is the one that we like to highlight there. Then just overall, I think you got Athens at Logan. That should be a fun one. And then Union against Wheelersburg at Shawnee State, so that's going to be part of the battle of the 740. Then Fed Hawk will play Bishop Hartley. Bishop Hartley just beat Uniota. Now Uniota was dealing with injury in that game, but still, that's a good Bishop Hartley team. So that could be a fun game to watch on
Oh, no,
Sunday.
no question. And again, you and I talked 2 weeks ago there on the girls' preview about Fed Hawk and what we believe they can be. So those are four really good basketball teams there that should represent girls basketball in that event really, really well.
Yeah, I think so as well. So, we got a big week coming up.
Mhm.
We've got the 3 streams. You're going to see us out at a lot of different games throughout the week. Now fully into basketball season, but I want to throw one shout out real quick. Our Raymond Gleedle was the porch in Hillsborough, their athlete of the week last week. He's a bowler. He bowls and then takes the best pictures of anyone.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's
there's no doubt about that.
yeah, he was up with Brock, Morgan Wilbanks, went up as well with them to do a lot of stuff for the Wheelersburg state championship game. Really looking forward to whatever they're able to all put together as part of our team in a way. We're trying to do a whole lot of different things with the YouTube channel, with Facebook, with different social medias as well to try to highlight some of these kids. Um, Hopefully, we can figure out a way while still writing and doing our normal coverage to get some of the in-game videos of the non-streaming games as well. But when you're trying to keep stats and everything, it makes it really difficult for us to do that to get some good video. But we're looking to expand in any way possible. So, you know, trying some different things. Not everything's going to be created equal. Not everything's going to be great, but going out and giving a full effort for it.
I think the key is to subscribe to the YouTube channel because if you love high school sports in our area, which I assume you do if
Yeah.
you're listening to this, the it just gives you a chance to not miss anything
Mhm.
because there's some incredible content out there. Like the lists that you've done, those are outstanding. I mean, it just recaps the fall so
Mhm.
well. Um, and then like some of the highlight packages, if you don't feel like you have time to sit down and watch a whole stream, a lot of those highlight packages just kind of maybe showcase the flow or a key point in a game or some key highlights of a
Mhm.
game. And you're right. There's a lot of different ideas we have. We're going to continue to grow and continue to do. I would love to get the feedback from people. If we're missing someone, our coverage area is so big that if there's a team or a player that we're not talking about enough, I would love to hear about it so that we can
Mhm.
look into saying, pay a little bit more attention to them because a lot of times we don't get like the other night I decided when we weren't streaming not to go out to a
Mhm.
game. I literally had a game on my TV, a
Mhm.
game on my computer, a game on my phone, and then I was following some of your updates on a
Mhm.
game, and then I went back and watched 3 games on the huddle access I have afterwards.
Mhm.
I ended up seeing like 6 high school basketball games in a matter of like 4 hours.
Okay.
So it's just we love it.
Yeah.
So please share. We if we're missing something, we want to know. Say, hey, I think you'd really like this team. I think you'd like this player. Go check them out.
Yeah, and then also whenever we're doing those standout performances, if we missed one from the last 2 weeks, let us know, and that way we
Absolutely.
can highlight it next week,
Yeah.
and that way, I figured it out. Now, 2 of them are not OHSA affiliated, but we cover 70 different schools
I,
in our different area. Not all of them have boys and girls basketball, but that's I would say 135, maybe 138 teams in our area that we can cover or get information on in some way.
Mhm.
So if we miss something, it's not on purpose.
No,
So,
no.
and then once Wheelersburg steps in and starts playing again, then that adds another team back to it, and yeah, it's just got a lot of coverage area. So we try to cover as much as possible. So once again, if we miss anything, nothing personal, and we will make up for it if we're let known. But this week we got a lot of stuff that's going to go out, going to be out on the YouTube. So the coaches call-in show, if you missed it, will be on Sunday nights at 7. The first 2 weeks, me and Matt Hoops will have people in the studio. He'll be gone. Week 3, be Nick Barrows will be sitting in on that one as well as he did for several weeks during basketball or football season. And once again, if we've got 130 plus teams, we're gonna try to spread the wealth on the different coaches that are going to be calling in. So let me look real quick on that. So we've got SOC, SVC, SHAC, OVC, FAC, and then another SOC. So I mean that's
Pretty big.
five different leagues out of the 8 coaches that are calling in on Sunday night, and then we've got some coaches lined up for the week after as well, without going um, you know, even digging in even further of, we're trying to find different coaches to talk to and whatnot. So we're gonna try to go through as many as we can before we even double up on any. Even though Coach Miller did say that he would be in the Coach Hoops role of, hey, if you need someone to fill some time, I'll call in. So you may hear him a little bit more than you want, but that's just because we're not able to get a hold of others. So we have 2 guests in studio for that one. And then 8 more coaches are going to call in. So, I mean, that should be some pretty good information on the first coaches call-in show. Then Tuesday, Shayne and I will have Fairfield at Eastern Brown on the boys' side. And then Shayne and Carson will have the SVC game of the week with Paint Valley at Adena on Friday. Saturday, Mount Notre Dame at Portsmouth will be Shayne and Carson as well. So it should be a fun week of live streams there. I know Brock Netter just had an article on Jaden Beverly from Rouse County Christian, and Chillicothe just went out. That just went out while we were doing our show, so I haven't got a chance to read it yet. But based off of what Derek had told me, it was a really good article. So look for that if you haven't seen it on sosaohio.com. I know we're gonna have at least one highlight package go out, probably a couple on those games this week as well. Overall, it's just a lot of content. So as Shayne said, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page, and then make sure you get our notifications. Even if you get them on Facebook as well, you're going to see a lot of content as well. Now, Nevada County, I believe those guys are streaming down there at the Battle of the 740. I haven't seen a verification yet, but I know they'll do a really good job of that. So those games should be available to watch if you don't have a chance to make it down to the Battle of the 740 like we did last year. But should be some really good basketball there. Get out and watch, especially this week. If I'm just going to pull up the weather really quick.
I think it's decent.
Yeah, it's going to be a little warmer. So doesn't look like any snow for the week. So without snow, make sure you get out and support some of these teams because we love you watching our broadcasts and whatnot. But man, when you get out and get in the gym, it just makes it an even better atmosphere for those kids. That game on Friday night, Adena at Union had an outstanding atmosphere, and that's what you want. You want those really great atmospheres.
Eastern Lynchburg game did as well.
Yeah, so you're going to see some great atmospheres, and that just makes it a more fun experience as well. So
I'm looking forward to really, really anxious to go Tuesday night. I'm intrigued by that matchup for sure with Eastern and Fairfield.
yeah, it should be a really fun week ahead. So looking forward to that. You got anything else?
I think that's it. I mean, love covering it all. Again, please reach out to us if we're missing someone because there's a good chance we are. And
Yep.
and I know I want to kind of get some help sometimes getting pointed in the right direction because, like I said, you follow. Even the other night when I'm watching 7 or 8 games, that's a pretty small percentage of
Yeah.
my coverage area.
Yeah, it's when at some point we'll have P. Floyd on. I think probably the coach's call-in show to
Nice.
talk, and he's watching even more than we are.
Yeah.
And it's going to be. There's some of us that are really into it. And it's we're not the only ones. So
Yeah.
if we could hear from different people, we appreciate it
Yeah.
as well. So even if you say some not so nice things, do it to Shayne, not me.
Yeah.
So
You won't bother me.
Yeah.
I hear it all the time.
so once again, anything else?
That'll do it.
All right. So you've been watching Southern Ohio Sports Authority's Overtime presented by Perfection One. For Shayne Combs, I'm John Bruce. Have a great rest of your week.